Hey guys, welcome back to Wiles HVAC and stuff. Today is time for part 2 of the winemaking. We're making the Wiles Black Magic. If you have not seen part 1, please go back and watch it first. That way this makes sense. But what we've done with the first video, we got everything into our primary fermenter. We added our yeast, all of our additives, everything like that. And then for twice a day for the past few weeks, we go through and we agitate the wine morning and night. Just stir it up, get it agitated in there, keep everything working, keep it moving. It degasses the wine as well as it moves all your sugar and your yeast and everything around in there. So that's very important to degas it with this process. So stir it twice a day, and then once a day we've checked the specific gravity, which we started at 1.110 inches of specific gravity, and we take it all the way down to 0.990. So every day you can watch it get lower and lower. Once we're at 0.990, we know everything has stopped working, everything's done, it's ready to go. So at that point, when there's no more movement in it whatsoever, it's time to put it into your secondary fermenter. I use the big mouth bubbler. You can use whatever you want. This is a 6-gallon plastic. If I was doing any kind of long-term, anything like that, I wouldn't use plastic. I prefer glass. But with this process that we do, it only stays in there for a few weeks. So I'm perfectly happy with using plastic. And it's supposed to be a safe plastic anyway. So before you do any of that, everything needs to be cleaned, which I know I showed you this last time, but the one-step no-rinse cleaner, it is a necessity with everything. All the siphoning tubes have to be cleaned. The fermenter itself has to be cleaned. All the countertop spaces, basically anything that's going to touch needs to be sanitized. You can't have any of those impurities in the wine whatsoever, regardless of it's gross to have stuff in it. It's also a matter of anything in there that's impure leaves off taste to the wine. So everything has to be cleaned, everything has to be sanitized, everything like that. So we're going to put that into the secondary fermenter. We've already got our siphon started. I just have to open the siphon stop there, which the siphoning tube, you can find those about anywhere. It's just a hard tube that raises off the bottom a little bit. That way you don't get all the sludge and the leftover. It's expired yeast is what it is. It's down in the bottom. And then they make the clips so you can hold it on there and then siphon stop. So all the accessories well worth the investment. So what we're going to do is we're going to get it moving in there. We're going to get siphoning, so we can go ahead and start that. All we're going to do, siphon it from that tub to that one, because when that sits in there, when that yeast gets done working, all the old yeast falls to the bottom, so you have kind of sludge sitting in the bottom there. So when we suck that off there with the siphoning tube, we want to just pull the liquid off the top and try to leave as much of that stuff in the bottom as there. That way we can throw that away, discard it, and don't have to worry about it. But then when we're coming through our siphoning hose, like I said, we want to degas this wine as much as possible. I can't emphasize enough how important that is, just to degas it. So whenever it goes in there, leave it some room, let it splash around in there, everything like that, and get working. Once we've gotten everything out of the primary into the secondary, we are going to add 3 teaspoons of potassium sorbate and a 1/4 teaspoon of potassium metabisulfite. Those additives in there, for one, it sterilizes the wine so everything's pure and clean, as well as it prevents any kind of chances of any yeast working afterwards or anything like that. Which once we get it into the secondary fermenter, this fermenter, everything will be sealed with an airlock. You can find those about anywhere, but you always want to make sure you use an airlock. That way no air can get to it once it's done working. And then the other thing we're going to do is I always use sparkleoid powder. It speeds up the process as far as finding that wine and clearing it out. The sparkleoid powder, you have to use 1 tablespoon to 1 cup of water, and you mix the two together, cook it on the stove, just simmer it for about 20 minutes, and then you'll pour it in there. So we'll get this siphoned, we'll get our sparkleoid powder working, and be right back. Okay, so everything's been siphoned into our secondary fermenter. We left all the dead yeast and the sludge down at the bottom because we only want the liquid in there. So everything's been put in there. So now we're going to add our additives. We've got the 3 teaspoons of the potassium sorbate and the 1/2 teaspoon of potassium metabisulfite. And again, just same as I said on the first video, the full recipe with all the amounts of additives, the fruit, everything you do, all that is available in typed version at wileshvacandstuff.blogspot.com. So if you want all that, go there and you can get the full recipe and everything like that. So we're going to add that directly to our fermenter. That'll mix in there. And then our sparkleoid powder, like I said, that has to simmer in water for about 20 to 30 minutes. Make sure everything's in there. It's still hot. You put it in straight hot into the fermenter. And what that does is over time, as this thing sits, it will actually cause that to bond to all the proteins and part of the thick particles that we can see in that must, and it will actually force them all to drop to the bottom. And you'll see here in a week or so that wine will be clear. I mean, it's really cloudy and kind of rough looking right now, but it'll be crystal clear, I promise, within a week or so. So we're going to put that on there. We've got our additives in it. We've got our sparkleoid powder in there. Now we get our top with our airlock on it, and you can see it spouting bubbles out because we want to make sure everything's clear or airtight, so that's why there's water in there. So make sure it's airtight. Now this has to sit for a minimum of 1 week before you could do anything else with it. But we'll check it out here in a week or so and see what it looks like. But you'll be able to see it each day. You'll have clear on top, and it'll get more and more and more clear as all that stuff falls to the bottom. We'll rack it again into a clean jug, and we'll see how many times we have to do that before we're ready to bottle. But actually, it shouldn't be too long at all. I would say a week, maybe 2 weeks tops, and we'll be able to bottle it again. So again, make sure everything's good and sanitized, and make sure everything's airtight, and now we'll let it sit, and we'll go from there. So if you have any questions or anything, please comment below. Otherwise, like, share, and subscribe as much as possible. Don't forget to hit the bell, and that way you get notifications every time a new video comes out. So thank you and God bless.